What's good, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back to another F1 video. F1 Friday. Friday F1. Same thing. Anyway, hope you guys are doing good and amazing on this lovely Friday. We're back with another crash video. This time the most brutal. We have seen like teammate crashes. We have seen crashes in different decades. We have seen crashes in like the last like season or two, whatever. But brutal. Kind of scared. You guys know me, man. If you guys go back to like my like 60s and 70s and 80s crashes, that was crazy. Absolute crazy. Like the stuff we were seeing in those decades regarding crashes were crazy. So shout out to Untold F1. I'm not really sure what's gonna happen in this video, but it's gonna be some crazy crashes. So you guys really do enjoy these as well. Obviously crashes are pretty cool because that's kind of like, if it's not like a crazy ass crash, I'm cool with it. But it does cause, some race stuff to change, stuff like that. So, race techniques. Well, because if a crash happens, decisions have to come after that. So, yeah. Anyway, let me shut the hell up. Let's go in. Let's hop straight into the video. Don't forget to like and sub as well. Like I said, I am going to be out of town this weekend. So, try to get this out for you guys on Friday. Because I'll probably be back on Monday. So, anyway, that's pretty much it. Let's start.
Hamilton's devastating crash to Verstappen. From Hamilton's devastating crash to Verstappen's dramatic incident, which even destroyed a F1 driver's career.
And some of these crashes we're probably already going to like know about just because we've seen it in like other clips, but let's just see.
These are the terrible crashes that changed F1 forever.
Together. An absolutely smeared championship protagonists have taken each other.
And we gotta start with Fernando Alonso. In 2016, Alonso crashed badly as he went flying against a wall in the Australian Grand Prix.
Oh yeah. Every time
he went flipping through the air before coming to rest upside down at 200 miles per hour.
Oh.
Luckily, he wasn't seriously injured and was capable of escaping his McLaren.
Good.
But trust me, guys, that's nothing. Because what Max's father, Jos Verstappen, suffered from was one of the most infamous fire incidents in F1 history. At the 1994 Hockenheim race, Jos came to the pits after 15 laps, hoping for a regular pit stop, but instead, he experienced the shock of his life. Fuel got sprayed out of the fueling hose and ignited his hot car. This became a huge disaster, as Verstappen in his car and his surroundings caught fire. Everything went up into flames, and it was suddenly dark and black, and I couldn't breathe. And despite this disaster, pit stop refueling still remained in F1 till 2010. But eventually, after several more incidents occurred due to refueling, it got banned for good. But even though Jos survived his fiery crash, another driver couldn't, which not only made headlines, but also became one of the worst moments in F1's history. In 1994, the crash at the San Marino GP changed F1 forever. Roland Ratzenberger, an Austrian driver who had competed in
remember we just talked about this like a few days ago. I think this is when him and Senna both passed away. Again, still to this day, I still have no idea why. After Ratzenberger passed, why not just cancel the whole weekend? I think Senna passed the day after. Jeez.
Just 3 F1 races, crashed his car into a wall at 195.7 miles per hour during qualifying, resulting in his loss. But unfortunately, that wasn't all. Ayrton Senna, one of the best F1 drivers in history, crashed and passed away the next day due to one of the most horrifying crashes in F1 history. There are even rumors that the Brazilian was considering not competing in the Grand Prix because he was so devastated by Ratzenberger's passing. Sadly, Senna made the decision to race, and on lap 7, he lost control of his vehicle and hit an exposed concrete barrier at a speed of about 192 miles per hour. This incident created a great deal of changes in F1, with more emphasis being placed on the safety of F1 drivers. To minimize dangerous detachments in crashes, testing methods for tire barriers were made mandatory. Barriers were secured by rubber belts, and wheel tethers were adopted. But while
still to this day, like I still feel like in the 90s, especially like the mid 90s, they should have already like knew like we can't do concrete no more. We can't have like certain barriers, stuff like that we used to have. Like maybe that's just me, but I mean, obviously I can say it now because seen it happen, but like maybe just at the time they just didn't really feel like that. But still, like, and that sucks for Senna because Senna, he wasn't gonna race that weekend, and then
these terrible crashes changed F1. Some crashes also crushed one F1 driver's reputation. And we all know which Russian driver I'm talking about. Nikita Mazepin's rookie season made some big headlines, but not for any good reasons. He was a laughingstock. Even before his career got started, he was already being judged. And when he crashed in the first race of the year, obviously it didn't help him. But seriously guys, crash in the first race? I mean, come on. Even Sergio Perez repeatedly called him an idiot at the Portuguese Grand Prix. Also, his relationship with ex-teammate Mick Schumacher also deteriorated, and to the point where Mick even declared that he wanted to finish him. Oh boy, that got serious. But while this Haas driver's crashes were simply ridiculous, another Haas driver was also involved in a crash, which not only changed his life, but also changed F1 forever. During the opening lap of the 2018 Bahrain Grand Prix, Romain Grosjean was involved in a terrifying crash. He reached a peak force of 67 Gs when he crashed into a metal barrier at 119 miles per hour. This split his car into half and caused an explosion. Grosjean was trapped in the cockpit for 27 seconds before he managed to escape through the raging fire. But later, he revealed that the main reason he's alive is because of the halo, which definitely has become a huge part of F1 safety. But despite the safety precautions, some crashes were simply unavoidable, especially when it looked like a driver would do anything to harm their teammates' chances of winning. And we're of course talking about Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. Despite winning both Constructors and Drivers' Championships, things got personal for the Mercedes drivers.
And like they were like best friends. If I'm correct, they're like best friends growing up in that. But that's just sport, competitive sport, man. Like you want to win, you're gonna do whatever it takes to win. Like it gets heated. Like I mean,
especially at the height of it, when the pair took out each other on the opening lap at the Spanish Grand Prix. The crash was so bad that it not only fractured their already tense relationship, but also had Mercedes threaten to sack both drivers. But what's interesting is the pair were actually childhood friends, and even after that, their friendship suffered and got ruined to the point where Lewis even told Mercedes that he didn't want to race for them again. Niki Lauda also stressed that both drivers pushed each other to the limit, hence the crash. But turns out, this crash was nothing compared to the crash that Niki experienced during his racing days, which was so devastating that it forced F1 to make changes. It was 1976, German Grand Prix. Bad weather and track coverage meant that parts of the Nürburgring circuit were wet. Now, what's interesting is, even though Lauda was the fastest driver on the circuit, he still expressed his displeasure with the track and asked his fellow drivers to abandon the race. But unfortunately, he was outvoted, and as such, the race went ahead. And sadly, at the notoriously dangerous Bergwerk corner, he lost control of his Ferrari, veered off the track, collided with a wall, and his car burst into flames. The Austrian driver suffered severe burns to his head, hands, and inhaled hot fumes that damaged his lungs. And after being taken to the hospital, he fell into a coma and was even given his last rites. But he survived, thank God. But while Niki Lauda's crash became a defining moment in his career, Nicholas Latifi's crashes were also pretty much defining, but not in the way he wanted. In the final laps of the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Latifi ruined it for Mercedes. Hamilton saw his lead cut after Latifi crashed into the barriers. But as apologetic as Latifi was about the incident, he did little to change his Latifi status, as he also crashed behind a safety car at the Monaco Grand Prix. Behind a safety car? I mean, come on. How does that even happen? Well, this is what Latifi said. The throttle didn't get stuck, but it was like the throttle got stuck. It was very strange and surprising at the same time, and I was already going so slow there, I was just a passenger at that point. The car is driving forward and I'm not on the gas, so I don't know what's happening here. Well, now that's one way to put it. But remarkably, that wasn't all. During the Japanese Grand Prix practice session, he got lost and turned down a dead end. And instead of continuing down the track layout, he made a 180-degree turn and went the wrong way. This obviously didn't go unnoticed, but instead of owning up, once again, he blamed the incident on the car being strange.
Bro, the car is not being strange by you going the wrong way. That's all you, my guy. That's all you. Latifi. Come on, bro. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Go Tiffy, go Tiffy.
My God.
What a guy.
Shout out Go Tiffy
But while
for real,
Latifi's
bro.
crashes
Hopefully he
luckily
is,
didn't cause any serious
doing good.
harm, unfortunately we can't say the same thing for Antoine Hubert, because as we all know, the crash he was involved in was simply devastating. In the Belgian Grand Prix, the F2 driver was involved in a high-speed crash. On the second lap, Hubert collided into a barrier near the high-speed Eau Rouge turn and was then struck by another driver, Juan Manuel Correa,
We actually
which
watched
caused
the video.
Hubert's car to be completely destroyed. Antoine later succumbed to his injuries and thus couldn't survive. But sadly, that's not all, because Formula One racing icon Jackie Stewart also experienced a similar incident at the same corner. Stewart was left facing his end when he crashed his car at the Spa circuit, which left him hanging upside down with
Is
fuel
that a hill?
trickling
Oh
down
my
his face.
God.
He was safely rescued from his automobile by 2 other drivers, and since then, he's led multiple campaigns to increase drivers' safety. But surprisingly, his initial thoughts were that seatbelts were unnecessary and uncomfortable. But since then, he's changed his mind after these many
good.
new safety measures prevented from losing many drivers. When I was starting in the Formula One world, the tracks were hideously dangerous.
I know it.
There were no runoff areas, and it was just crazy. Ridiculous things like telegraph poles were up close and personal. But while Stewart already changed his views about seatbelts, Carlos Sainz's crash still forced the FIA to dig deeper regarding its seatbelt rule. During the second practice at the Monza circuit, Carlos Sainz crashed hard into the wall at the Ascari chicane. The impact was so
Ascari
heavy
chicane.
that Sainz was pushed pretty far forward towards his steering wheel, despite having his seatbelt on. F1 fans got extremely alarmed by this, but the FIA still noted that while Sainz's case was strange, it's normal for seatbelts to give a little impact because doing so is far safer for the human body than when they are rigid. Even
That's
Michael
true, though.
Massey
I
said,
mean,
I think the
that's true, though.
seatbelts are made to stretch.
That's true,
We
though.
will look at the seatbelt, as we do with any major incident or significant incident like this, and see what we can learn from it. But
Where is Michael Massey now? Like, didn't he leave the FIA or something like that? He got fired, resigned, or something like that?
even though this crash created FIA ways to improve the sport, another crash created dispute among Red Bull's teammates, which even led to one of them leaving the racing team. At the 2018 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, both Red Bull drivers, Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo, crashed into each other while battling on the long straight. Both of them seemed to move under braking. Verstappen defended too hard, and Ricciardo attacked too aggressively, thereby resulting in a double DNF.
Shake my
After the
head.
race, Ricciardo even said that Verstappen's cutting into him annoyed him, and his frustration increased when he realized that the team wouldn't help him. We touched wheels a few times where it was always Max coming into me, as opposed to me going into Max. Part of me was waiting for the team to say cut the
Let's
but
not.
never really got that. I'll say now, I was more just like, F you guys. Wow, I never saw Ricciardo angry before,
Golly,
but
Danny.
Ricciardo later explained that this Baku incident eventually made him leave the Milton Keynes-based team, since Verstappen
like
was
Durant
just
leaving the
ready
Warriors.
to end his career. Even the team boss, Christian Horner, believes that Ricciardo was running from a fight with his teammate, and today
What? I think Danny Rick is a competitor as well. But, when it seems like, the team wouldn't even help you after constantly, mentioning how Max is driving, like, he's kind of messed me up. Like, don't we kind of know that F1, some teams have their favorites. Like, that's why we see, certain times during the race, like, they'll have, like, for example, McLaren, like, I think it just happened this past weekend. Like, if Piastri is in front of Lando, obviously they would want Lando to finish above Piastri, something like that. Like,
we all know who
is
ended
that
up where.
considered, like,
Verstappen
favorites?
is a 2-time champion, and by looking at Red Bull's performance,
3-time.
he'll be a 5-time champ soon.
Yeah.
Ricciardo, however, did return to Red Bull, but as a reserve driver to his former teammate. But still, this crash was nothing compared to what Guan Yu Zhou
That was
had at the
crazy.
British Grand
Upside
Prix.
down.
At the opening lap of the race, George Russell collided with the Alfa Romeo driver Guan Yu Zhou, which then sent the Chinese driver's car flying across the track, sliding on its halo before being sent over a concrete barrier and into the retaining wall.
Oh my
This
God.
crash was so severe, as Zhou was literally skidding while upside down for a considerable amount of time. But thankfully, Zhou was unharmed, owing it to the halo, and even confirmed on Twitter that the halo saved his life. The
Shout
Halo
out to
is just
Halo,
one of the
man.
numerous inventions
For real.
that shows how much F1 has advanced in terms of safety and saved so many lives. But unfortunately, we can't say the same for Jules Bianchi,
Rest in
this
peace.
young, talented driver who was the first person ever to be in the Ferrari Drivers Academy, had his dream dashed when he crashed his car into a 6,500 kilogram crane, which was clearing German driver Adrian Suttil's car. Suttil's car had spun out of control and crashed in the same spot the lap earlier, and as a result, his car was still being cleared by the crane when Bianchi lost control of his car on the same curve
Just the
and
worst
crashed
of
into the
luck.
crane at 78
Just
miles
the
per hour
worst of
and ultimately
luck.
lost his life. This
Damn.
tragic incident forced the FIA to implement the 4-hour rule,
supposed to
which
be him and
requires that
Leclerc
races held
Ferrari.
during the day must take place no less than 4 hours before sundown, along with modifications to track drainage and how emergency vehicles handle collisions. But even if
It was
these
supposed
drivers'
to be him and
crashes created
Leclerc.
some positive rule changes, sometimes F1 drivers simply force the FIA to make a rule change. But this time, it's just for their benefit. One F1 driver forced a rule change just to gain an unfair advantage in the race. Another driver forced it, which was so bizarre that it even changed F1's future forever. But who are these drivers? And what changes did they
Holy crap. I mean, just seeing Bianchi, you know, Huber, Senna, that's just the bad part about F1, man, is that there have been deaths to noble, good drivers, man. But the good thing about F1 is that with these incidents, you know, they've been able to make it more player safe, you know, player safety, stuff like that. Obviously, Jackie Stewart was like a big component of that. So, just good to see them, you know, learning from their mistakes that still could have still been prevented, but at least they're taking the initiative. So no F1 race this week, so race will be back next week, so that should be fun, very, very fun and exciting as always. Hope you boys and girls are doing good and amazing. Don't forget to like and sub as well. Take care, stay amazing, and as always, peace.